I'm going to share a little bit about a man who was very important in my life for about 15 years, and that's Dr. Bohi Pak, Colonel Pak, as he was known at that time. I spent 10 years at the News World with Dr. Pak. News World Communications was a daily newspaper in New York City that also published Noticias del Mundo, a Spanish daily paper. And that was the foundation for the Washington Times. So we started the newspaper in New York. I came 2 or 3 years after it started, and we were the birther. We birthed the Washington Times, so everybody got trained. From our staff trained the Washington Times people. So I spent 10 years there, and then Dr. Pak was as I was preparing for this, I realized he was very influential in my life of faith and for the next 15 years. Most of my mission changes had to do with Dr. Pak. And my last mission change, I was the pastor of Washington, D.C., so as Dr. Pak used to say, "Nick, you're my pastor." And I used to say to myself, well, I never see a church. But anyway, I mean, he was instrumental because he got me the job, and maybe I'll address that in a minute. As his pastor, I wanted to give a Bible quote also. Matthew 18:20. Who here knows what Matthew 18:20 is? I didn't think so. For if 2 or more are gathered in my name, then I shall be there. If 2 or more are gathered in my name, I shall be there. I mean, whether it's with our wives, that is the essence of our unification, divine principle, and that's what made Dr. Pak great, because he was one with Father and Mother. And when I came last night and I saw the pictures on the wall, and I saw the same Spirit, Father and Dr. Pak, and it was the Holy Spirit that I saw, because he was one with Father and heart. And his attendance, he taught me so much. That's when I first saw Dr. Pak. When I was at East Garden, and he was the translator, and it was not easy being the translator for Father. There's a lot of preparation. There's a lot of effort. And I can remember one time, we're at Belvedere, and Father was going to impromptu speech, and Colonel Hahn was there, and David Kim was there, and they were arguing. Hey, you translate. You translate. Nobody wanted to translate for Father. He spoke so fast, and So, but anyway, Dr. Pak was unique. He understood Father. He took it so seriously, and he was so good at it. How many times you heard when Dr. Pak would say, "You rascals"? Remember that? You know what the translation was? "You son of a bitches." I'm not exaggerating. That's so. Dr. Pak said rascals. Father saying "you son of a bitches," and Father saying and Dr. Pak would translate and say "you rascals." So he really taught us attendance, and anyway, he's so good. At East Garden, like I said, he was God's colonel, but he was not the doctor then. Many of you were state leaders, had spiritual missions. And I had the opportunity to be at East Garden for a few years, and HSA Publications and the News World. And I'd see, Dr. Pak would many times come each morning, report to Father. He was in Washington, D.C. at the time. He wasn't up there all the time. And I guess my first experience with, or one of the first experiences with Dr. Pak was, actually I was Hyojinum's tutor for a while. So, for a while. And that was the blind leading the blind, by the way. So when he got kicked out of junior high school, he got sent away to Dr. Pock, so that a little change of scenery, and hopefully Dr. Pock can try to handle him a little better than he was doing at East Garden. But Dr. Pock was so sincere about wanting to try to help Yojanim. And he would come to me and say, Nick, well, after my guard duty, I'd go up to his room and, to help him with his studies. I mean, it wasn't like I was giving him a lot of personal, guidance or anything like that, but I did listen to him a lot. Anyway, he wanted to take the burden off true parents. And of course, Mrs. Pock was the one, because Dr. Pock was still traveling all the time. But I was so moved because I saw his heart of love to try to help Yojanim. Another time I had a fond memory of Dr. Pock was where there was a father had told the kids, okay, this is 1977, that if they did well in school, he would take them to Disneyland. But whenever Father did anything, there was always a mission. Father had a mission in mind. So we're going to go to Carlsbad Cavern, Petrified Forest, Grand Canyon, Las Vegas, Disneyland. Remember that, Mike? We came to Disneyland we ended up in Disneyland. But, so, memorable trip. But the reason, do everybody remember Father used to go to all the caverns? Yeah. Do you know why? People might think, oh, Father's interested in caverns, what have you. I didn't find out till later, and I wasn't on that trip, it was just years later, talking to Colonel Hahn or something. Father was concerned if there was a nuclear war. Where would the members go? And that's why he visited practically every cavern in the United States. I mean, we never understood the heart of true parents. So we went to the Carlsbad Cavern, and Carlsbad Cavern, we drove to the Petrified Forest and then the Grand Canyon, and we're going out of the Grand Canyon, and true parents were in the first car, and I was driving the second car, and I had all the true children, Mrs. Durst with me, and Yojanim and Hunjanim were in the front seat, and it was beautiful in the Grand Canyon. A couple of miles out, it starts snowing. All of a sudden, black ice, and my car's doing a 360. And I go, oh my God, I'm going to wreck True Parents' vacation. I'm thinking, oh, this is bad. And I'm driving, and we go around, and then, half the cars off the road, and front cars in the road, and I see this marker on the side of the road, and we're coming. To ruin the car, to wreck True Parents' vacation, and we stopped an inch from the car. Angels. And Dr. Pock jumps out of the car behind us. I could see his look on his face. He was so concerned. Is everybody okay? And, he starts running over the car, and all I want to do is make things, turn that car turned on. Oh my God. Gave it some gas, and off I went. But the look on his face, I'll never forget. He was just petrified. I can see him right now. He runs over, and I just took off. I don't want to forget about what just happened, man. That was anyway. But Dr. Pock was there for the true family, and he was always there. Whenever Father went on trips, and he was also there. And I know somebody else was going to touch on this when Father got angry. And many times he took the indemnity for us, when we didn't fulfill what we had to do. And I saw that many times being at East Garden. As Colonel Hahn used to say, when Father gets angry, it's the end of the day. That was when Colonel Hahn said that, I just had to laugh because he got it so much from Father. But it's true. And Dr. Pock took that for all of us many, many times. Moving on, Colonel Pock became a doctor when he became the president of News World Communications. Okay. That's when he became the doctor. So I preceded him by a year or two, and my job usually was, hey, Nick, you got to go get the money from Dr. Pock, because I was the vice president. And Dr. Pock was good at hiding when you're asking for money. So, but then he became the president, and he couldn't hide anymore because the buck stopped with him. But he became the president, and it was like as we say, a crust of bread in the midst of a famine. He was such a special man. And the reason he was so special is because most of the Korean leaders grew up in Korea. Most of the Korean leaders, they only knew Korean culture. Most of the Korean leaders, were raised up by father, and father had his own unique way to deal with Korean people. But dealing with Americans, a little different. And that's what made Dr. Pock special, is he understood us, and most of all, he listened to us. And by listening to us, he gave us ownership, and we wanted to do more. And he felt our heart, and that's why he's so special. How much time do I got, Pat? Okay. Remember Chico State? Okay. Okay. And then, okay, so he started many things. I want to tell you the Reagan landslide. Reagan landslide. Okay, so here's the story. What year? I don't know what year that was. 1980? Okay, 80 or no? Okay, well, I guess if you say it's 80. Anyway, Reagan landslide. Carter and Reagan are presidential election, neck and neck. Nobody, everybody says it's too close to call. I get a call from Dr. Pock about a week before the election. Nick, get the editorial team together. We're going to have a meeting when I get to the office. Okay, so Dr. Pock comes to the office. He says, okay, we're going to create the headlines for the election that says Reagan wins by a landslide. And everybody's going, what? Where is this coming from? And then he goes, Paula Jones, I want you to write, Reagan's going to win by a 350 electoral votes landslide. What? Well, it was neck and neck. Nobody knew what was going to happen. And Dr. Pock says, he never said anything about father. We all thought it was Dr. Pock. What's he doing now? And, do this, okay? And so we created the newspaper, and, we're preparing for the event and everything. He printed the newspaper the day before so that it would have, and then Josette, we had to ship the paper overnight to Washington, D.C., wherever, I think that's where Reagan was for his, or it might have been in California. I don't know where we shipped it. We had to ship it. And she had to get it before the, and nobody knew what was going to happen. And that whole thing was exactly what happened. And it was only, yeah. And it was only after that all things that he gave all the honor to father. Because if it would have backfired, he was going to be the bad guy. And then he said, it was father. And then I realized so many things at the newsroom. We thought Dr. Pock was doing them. It wasn't Dr. Pock. Where do you think the UFO magazine came from? Try thinking about that for a few seconds, okay? Yeah, we had a UFO insertment that came directly from East Garden. Create a UFO. Hello? Think about it. In conclusion, Hey, I can't forget this. Actually, I was actually picked to be a pop gun. I'm sorry, I keep getting mixed up. Top Gun. I always confuse pop gun and Top Gun. I just can't help myself. Okay, so I was picked to be a pop gun, and like all of you, and so it was the 10-year anniversary of the News World, and two of these Korean leaders came to me, and I was supposed to go to the seminary. I'd been in the News World for about 10 years. Go to the seminary, had all my stuff in the seminary, and these two Korean leaders come up and say, "Oh, Nick, hey, you're gonna work with me in California." These guys are dingy. I don't know where they're talking about, And then we go to the 10-year anniversary. Dr. Pak's there, and he goes, "Nick, Father still loves you." And I go, "What the heck does that mean?" And then the next day was the New Year's, and Father picked the go to Africa mission, and then Dr. Pak came to me and said, "Nick, I picked you to be on the Top Gun team, or the African mission." But he said, "Father said you need more spiritual work, so you're going to be a state leader." Anyway, I was one of you guys, and then at the very end, in life, there's two types of people that influence us and make us who we are. They're dream killers and dream makers. The dream killers, you can't do anything, you're no good, always shooting down negative about ideas. But the dream makers build you up, believe in you, want you to succeed. They have charisma and character. Father was a dream maker. Father was our true parent. Dr. Pak was our uncle, and he had that same thing about him. He believed in us. He was a dream maker, and he believed in us, and he believed in our dreams, and that's why he's so special. To end, to me, when I think he translated, he always said, "Hold on to true parents. Whatever happens, hold on to true parents. Don't let go." Rest in peace, my brother, and God bless you.